Hello there, and welcome. Today I'm going to be making a custom holster for this prop blaster. Now, this is part of a larger Mandalorian cosplay that I've been working on, and if you would like to see me make this blaster, there's a video for that, so feel free to check that out. And with the shameless self-promotion over, let's go ahead and make a holster. First off, let's talk materials. Leather would obviously be a great choice for this, but I'm going to be using this vinyl imitation leather fabric. I'm going to be using it for a few reasons. First off, it's quite a bit more affordable. Secondly, it's way easier to work than leather. And thirdly, I don't have a good leather supplier anywhere near me, and I do have a fabric store. Beyond that, I'm going to be using some contact adhesive and some small rivets. I may also use some snaps. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do here is make a template. So let me show you how I do that. Here we are, a rough template. This loop is going to come up and go over my belt, so they'll actually cut kind of two slits in here, which will allow my belt to weave through there. And then this bottom part will simply fold over, and we will glue and rivet these two ends together so the blaster can slip right down in there like that. Alright, so I'm looking at this and I'm realizing there's probably going to be a problem here in that this blaster has this big sight that pops up here. And if that goes down below my holster, I'm never going to get this thing out because that's always going to catch. So I want to make sure that my holster comes down over that. But I am going to let the barrel stick out the bottom. But my current template, I think that sight is really close to poking through and getting stuck all the time. So I'm just going to make sure that when I lay this out on my fabric that I leave an extra inch down here on the bottom. Alright, so I just cut out a piece of fabric large enough to get our pattern on twice. And the reason I need it twice is because this stuff is pretty thin and flimsy, and what I'm actually going to do is spray some spray adhesive on the back of this, fold this over and glue it on itself. A, it'll make it a bit more rigid, and B, it gives us a nice leather face on both sides, as you'll be seeing both sides of this holster. And I'm just going to use some high strength contact adhesive in a spray form, just because it's going to be quicker than having to brush it out, but you certainly could if you don't have this on hand. As I was laying it out, I went ahead and drew my cut line straight across this, which that is definitely going to be seen, as the holster is going to be like this. So, this is vinyl, and it was a Sharpie marker. I'm going to see if I can remove that marker. Alright, let's see if some denatured alcohol will do the trick. Oh, it's definitely lightening up. Yeah, I think we are safe. So there you go. Pro tip, if you get some marker on the face of your vinyl, a little bit of denatured alcohol comes right off. Perfect. Okay, so this is still big in just about every direction. So I'm going to find out how much of this I can cut off. Okay, so originally I had planned on this wrapping over, and then this laying on top of it, and giving us kind of that profile. But what I want is to bring this in underneath the trigger so that trigger has something to bump against and there's a stop for the blaster as it comes down into the holster. What I'm realizing is by having it folded over like this, to get that folded over more in here, there's a bunch of weird puckering. So instead what I'm going to do is just kind of pinch this together like this. And we will glue and rivet here, and then we can sneak right underneath there and then glue straight down here. All right, so our contact adhesive is dry, so we can fold this over, glue it up, and do our first little test fit here. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. All right, and with that cut to shape, I'm now going to, I think, locate where I want my rivets, which I'm definitely going to want one here. That's kind of the main holding point where any pressure is going to be. So I'll put one there, and then I'll just kind of figure out what looks good. I'll probably do 2 here and probably 2 here. I might also cut this at a little bit of kind of like a swoop in there, just so it's not so perfectly square. Might give it a little more visual interest. All right, so at the top of the holster here, all the weight is going to hang on this, so I kind of want to beef up this top edge, and I'm just going to do that by folding over a 1/2 inch or so of this. All right, so there we are. We got this folded over and glued up, and I also cut this little swoop here. So now I'm going to move on to putting in my rivets. And to do that, I'm going to punch holes with a little leather hole punch. If you're doing this in real leather, this is 100% necessary, but honestly, in this vinyl material, you could definitely get away with poking a hole through that with anything you want. It's soft enough that you can still slide your rivet through there. Since I have this, I'm going to go ahead and use it, but it's not necessary if you use vinyl. There we are. Our rivets are just a small post and a cap. You stick the cap on the post, and then you just whack it with a hammer, and it drives those two together. Let's do that. All right, so next I'm going to cut a couple of slits in this for my belt to pass through. Now, I don't know what the standard belt is, but if you have the belt that you're going to use, measure that. Mine is 1.5 inches, so I'm going to cut my slits at 1 3/4 inches. Also, when I cut these slits, I'm going to have the slits butt right up to this folded over area. All right, so there we go. Slides onto my belt nicely, and all of the weight of this is resting right on our extra thick folded top edge. All right, so I just cut a 1/2 inch strip of our vinyl because I think it'd be nice to have something that we could attach here, bring around, and snap into place. So I'm now ready to put the snap on the end of our strap and on the location where it will need to be attached. And this is just like the rivets. It comes with kind of a little post and cap, and then a post and snap. So you just punch a hole, slide this through, and then it comes with a special little anvil driver thing. there we are. The construction of the holster is complete. Fits in there really nice and conforming. Got a nice little strap here to keep it into place. Slides in and out nicely. We could be done, but we can make this look a little bit nicer still. And the first thing that we're going to want to do is color in all of these cut edges. All the edges are quite a bit lighter. You can see it here, here. And if you have a brown Sharpie, this is a great time to use a Sharpie, color all of those in. I don't have a brown Sharpie on hand, so I'll just use some brown acrylics and paint in all of those edges. So I was just about to start painting my edges here when I had a thought. And that thought is that, you know, when you're constructing something, when you're in the construction phase, it's really nice to be able to keep lines nice and straight, like areas parallel, and corners or adjacent sides 90-degree square. It just makes construction much more simplified that way. But once it's constructed, when you can break from perfectly straight lines and square corners, that's where I think visual interest and aesthetic starts to play in. And I was looking at this, and the bottom of this is very square and doesn't necessarily have to be for the functionality. So I've just marked a line on here, and I'm gonna just take this slightly out of square. I think it'll add a little bit of visual interest and make it not look so bulky. So I'm going to do that and then go ahead and just use some brown acrylics to paint all of my exposed cut edges. Alright, so there we are. All of our edges have been painted brown and match our leather nicely. Now I'm going to age this a little bit. I'm just going to do a dark brown or a black wash. All right, there we are. That concludes the build on this holster. I'm really quite happy with that. I think it looks great and will serve its function very well. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and let me know down in the comments. Also, consider subscribing and hitting that notification icon so that you'll be alerted when I upload my next video. As always, thank you so much for watching and enjoy your day.